Zion slid in her DMs on Snapchat, I believe, and they were talking, and they've been having sexual relations in the whole nine. And like I said earlier, Gen Z men, and I would say men in general, but I think younger men are less discriminatory when it comes to women. I think partly because testosterone is high, sex drive is high, I just want some ass. Also partly because shame is becoming a thing, a relic of the past. Not only are women no longer shamed, or people in general no longer shamed, things that should or would be shameful are no longer held against people. We live in the age where people's past don't matter. It's about who they are now. It's about their future. It's about our vibe. But I think it really speaks to the lack of masculine influence in our community in particular. From my understanding, Zion was not raised by his biological father. He was raised by his mother and a stepfather who I'm hearing he didn't even mention during his speech when he got drafted. Although it seems like that man was instrumental in his training and his subsequent success as an athlete, there is a difference. And I imagine either when his stepdad was giving him game about women, he either didn't listen, or maybe his stepdad didn't feel like he had the place to even give him that level of game if it in some way, shape, or form conflicted with who his mother was. Single mothers tend to produce two different types of men. One man who turns into a super pimp and he doesn't care about women, or another man who turns into a super simp and he's been his mother's husband. And we talk about husband, sons. He's been his mother's husband for his entire life. And he takes that disposition out into the world and he wifes up or impregnates anything. And that's how you end up being entangled with a 32-year-old adult film star. And then that's how you end up impregnating a 30-year-old baby mama who is the ex-girlfriend of Boosie Badass, stripper and apparently OnlyFans model. Let's jump right into it. What's up, y'all? So recently, news came out that Zion Williamson is going to be a dad. He's expecting a girl with his 29-year-old girlfriend. And, you know, the internet is in a frenzy. So I kind of wanted to deep dive into the different factors at play here. So, you know, Zion, he's a star player for the New Orleans Pelicans. He actually came out of South Carolina. So his high school, Spartanburg Day, is probably an hour away from where I am. And I remember when this last season, he only played 20 games, right? And this is a player who just signed a nearly $200 million contract. So most of the critique around Zion has been his health, right? Being overweight, being the size of a center, even though his true position is, you know, power forward at most and small forward at best. Recently just impregnated a woman 7 years his senior, or 8 years his senior. And not only that, is a woman with a shady, questionable past. I think we should start with the money. I remember before NIL deals, there used to be a lot of debate around paying athletes, especially paying college athletes, right? A lot of college athletes at that time, they would be on video games, they would be on shirts, their jerseys would sell, but they wouldn't get a cut of the money. And one side was saying it's you know, you're leveraging these players, you should pay them. The other side would say that these kids are 18, 19, 20. It would do them more harm than good to throw all that money at them. I was of the belief that if you are leveraging these kids to line your pockets, those kids should get some benefit, right? They made that money for you by their name and their likeness. They should get paid for it. However, I think it's important that we talk about 22-year-old millionaires and the consequences of that. couple weeks ago, we were talking about Morant. For the second time, has been caught with the firearm. And this is another young man who is worth a lot of money. And we see that despite his financial status, he's still pretty much a kid. I think it's important, especially as a community, we give these kids some grace, but we also begin to create safeguards, checks and balances for the next generation of 20-year-old multimillionaires, especially now with the NIL being approved. You're going to have 18-year-old millionaires, 17-year-old millionaires even. Listen, that generation is different. You know, I'm a millennial. I turned 30 a couple weeks ago, so I think I'm either in the middle of millennials or I'm a late millennial. I think I'm right in the middle because I think a late millennial would be like almost 40. But coming to the realization of like the transition between my generation and Gen Z, when I was going back to colleges to help grow their branch of We Need to Talk. For those of you guys who don't know, We Need to Talk started off as a collegiate organization. So the first thing I noticed, the younger generation, the freshmen, the sophomores, at the time, I was probably 2-3 years out of school, they weren't as interested in conversation. They weren't as interested in inquisitive thought or the Socratic method. They wanted to talk about hot girl shit, city boy shit, very low-hanging pop culture stuff. And what I tried to do at that time was try to leverage the pop culture stuff to get to some of those core things that they should be thinking about and they should be engaging in dialogue with. But even in dialogue with my little brother, who's a Gen Z, my little sister, Gen Z, there seems to be like a disconnect. And from, I guess, a millennial perspective, they weren't raised with the same game or appreciation of reality that I think millennials and older generations were raised with. Their generation is about safe spaces, manifesting. Consequences don't have to exist if you don't acknowledge them. Some other sides, it's about you can identify as whatever you want to identify as. And I bring that up because when I talk to my brother about girls his age, he says that some of them want to be strippers. He said that they're not looking at it as a plan B. He says some girls my age are looking forward to being strippers. They see it as a badge of honor. They see it as a career worth striving for, similar to how, I guess, our generation and older generations looked at doctors, lawyers, engineers. The pathology of the Gen Z is different. Now, in Zion Williams' case, a lot of people are giving him flack for not discriminating around the fact that one of his women, adult film star, and then the other one, which he just impregnated, is also, you could make the argument, an adult film star, works in the adult industry. I assume to his generation, it's not that big of a deal. Brittany Renner. Apparently now Brittany Renner has made a 360 and she's now trying to become a wholesome woman. But when she was still in her, I guess, hot girl phase, she talked about how athletes are very easy to take advantage of. She even said, I think athletes are dumb. She was impregnated by P.J. Washington. In that situation, it was clear to some people that she groomed him. And like a lot of women, unfortunately, she saw him as a meal ticket, which he was. She was at his college games, definitely at his NBA games, and took advantage of the fact that he was on his way to becoming a multimillionaire. And she secured that bag, as some older women are encouraging young women to do. Brittany Renner has actually been commissioned to speak at some schools. She spoke at Jackson State while Deion Sanders was coaching there. She spoke to the athletes about what to look out for when you make it and these women are going to come your way and they want to be with you and they want to, do stuff with you, and how to not throw away everything that you've worked for and everything that you've built because of a big butt and a smile. And it reminded me of something that I heard a while back. Athletes don't get bitches. And I know for a lot of people that's a counterintuitive truth, but what people don't realize is very elite athletes are in some ways equivalent to very elite scholars. They immerse themselves in their craft. So the society, by your neighborhood, by your city, as this shining star, this bright spot. It's kind of similar to being a really beautiful woman. And unfortunately, it cripples you from actually developing social skills or discernment skills. Because again, if you've always had things handed to you, you never actually have to figure out how to get it. Now, when it comes to beautiful women, part of the reason a lot of dudes complain that beautiful women usually have terrible personalities and things like that is because they've been treated like a commodity their entire life. And if you've been able to get on any boat you've ever wanted to get on, you've been able to go on any trip you've ever wanted to go on without having to earn it in any way, simply because somebody wants to sleep with you, simply because of how you look, there is no incentive to develop social skills. So sometimes that's why you find the social skills of really highly attractive people lacking in comparison to more moderately attractive people or even unattractive people. Right? Like a joke is, some short dudes have better personalities than the dudes who are 6'5" because they have to. Because since they didn't get the genetic advantage, they have to develop some of those auxiliary advantages. Most charismatic dudes you're going to meet are under 5'7". And that's kind of, how I guess God or nature keeps things in balance. Now, with athletes, again, not only not having the time to develop those social skills and those discernment skills, not having the need to develop those social skills and those discernment skills, you are prey. You're prey for agents, you're prey for companies, and you're absolute prey for women. Now, when we talk about predators, I think a lot of people usually think of a middle-aged white man. Or some people, some uneducated people or racist, they think of a black man, right? We know that's false.
What do you do if you get lost?
Find a big black guy.
You find a big black guy, and what do you tell him?
And that I lost.
That you're lost?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we don't talk about women being predators. It's clear when you see the differences with how male teachers who were found out to have had sexual relationships with their students, the social discourse around that versus female teachers who were found out to have had sexual relations with their students. And I think that speaks to a deeper issue of like our society not knowing how to prosecute women, not knowing how to divorce ourselves of the Puritan expectations we have of women. At the end of the day, what we're seeing in the ways that certain things are playing out, like Zion's situation, for instance, these two women who are in his life, one is 29, about to be 30, and the other one is 32. Zion Williams is 22. And similar to how an unknown number of boys were molested at an early age by older women, but it was seen as, oh, he probably wanted it, and he might have thought he actually wanted it. We don't know how to view boys or men as victims. And the truth is, women aren't stupid. Some women intentionally seek out men to take advantage of, particularly if you are a Zion Williamson, $200 million worth, and his net worth is probably higher when you add endorsement deals and the whole nine, 22-year-old, easy pickings. I mean, we hear, the women who go to Vegas or LA or wherever the All-Star game is going to be simply to try to trap a baller. Or the women who are always in anybody's VIP section. This is predatory behavior, but again, we don't frame it that way because women are considered a perpetual victim and men are considered a perpetual victimizer, even when a man is in the position to be harmed. This is why men are necessary. This is why fathers are necessary. And this is why gatekeeping by the black community is necessary. And that's why, for me, we have to get to the core of raising these boys by men who are not swayed by a woman's breasts or her ass and can really get to the nitty gritty of, okay, this is how you separate between the women and the birds.